Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over a Mitsubishi 3000GT VR-4. First and foremost, so a huge shout out and thank you to Southtown Imports for giving me some time with this 3000GT. Check out the inventory in the description down below. This one is available for sale if you're interested, and you guys can see we have a ton of cars here. It's like one of the only dealerships that actually has inventory, which is pretty crazy. But anyways, let's get into the review. So under the hood, we have a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, goes with a 6-speed manual transmission. It's good for 320 horsepower and then 315 pound-feet of torque. And it's pretty cool to see like the whole setup down here under the hood. Definitely, I don't know, a unique experience for me. But yeah, that's under the hood. Now let's take a quick look here at this 3000GT VR-4. So apparently this is not like the most special color on the car. Apparently people like white or red, but here's what I have to say is I love this color. It looks so cool to me, but I'm kind of partial to like blues and greens. Anyways, you guys can see here with the headlight design, and notice how they've carried the color into the headlight housing. It's kind of something they did in the 90s. It was interesting. And you guys can actually see down below, we've got some fog light action happening. And then with the openings, again, in the 90s, they didn't have massive grills like we have today. So definitely different. But overall, it has that cool kind of like sports car front engine look. And obviously this was a competitor to the Supra, and it definitely looks the part, which is cool. Anyways, coming here to the side, we've got 17-inch wheels, and wrapped around those we have 245mm tires, which again, you know, compared to modern cars, seems like a small setup, but again, back in the 90s, it was kind of what they did. And I love the chrome look here on the wheels, and then also in us Mitsubishi there on the brake calipers, which is pretty cool. And then also look at like the body lines here on the side, and you guys can see that right there. Really cool look, and just see how everything flows. The design on this is beautiful. It's super sleek, just has like an aerodynamic appearance. I thought this was pretty funny that it says twin turbo there. It's like you got to flex to everyone that you have a twin turbo V6 under the hood. And then popping here to the rear, you guys can see here stylistically, the spoiler definitely kind of interesting. Almost looks like dog ears that are kind of like drooping down. And then obviously we got the Mitsubishi badge. We have the 3000GT badge and the VR-4 badge. And you can see the quad tips down below. And I will get you guys an exhaust clip here in a little bit. And yeah, I mean, overall, again, from an exterior aesthetics perspective, I think it's a really good looking car, just with the overall shape and everything. And another thing in the 90s, right, is having like the whole like window design here, which is interesting. And then opening it up, you can see the interior here. Now, I actually like the contrast with this because, again, it's, you know, kind of like the bluish green, right? And with the cream, I think it looks great. Notice it's even here on the door panel, which for, you know, the 90s was definitely luxury. And then you can see we've got automatic windows. You can see here for the sound system. And then notice memory function for the seats. And then we have these like tiny rear seats, but you know what? They're still usable. And then look at the seats, like, you know, you actually have pretty nice leather here on the seats, and the cushioning on it is fantastic, actually. And then obviously the 3-pedal layout, because it is a manual transmission car. Really cool. And popping in, we got, of course, one of these, pretty interesting. Now the clutch throw is super far, like you have to like push really far down. And I don't know why it does that beeping thing, but it does like a loud kind of thing. And oh, it's because the door's open. That's why. I'm an idiot. Anyways, you guys can see here, you got the Mitsubishi logo there in the center. We have the shifter for that 6-speed manual. We'll talk about this in the driving portion. And then our brake here in the center. Other cool features here, you guys can see again, more adjustments for the seat. Active aero as well. And obviously the old school radio. You guys can see the climate controls and everything. Again, think about this in the 90s. Like, this is pretty futuristic looking for the 90s. And then obviously our gauges up here, right? Like you can see here. Boost gauge works in real time. And your temperature gauge and all that fun stuff. And then you guys can see with the mileage on this, 77,000 original miles. And also we actually have, you guys can see here with the top, you can take off this section right here. So you can kind of have like a little sunroof experience. And then also The sun visors are kind of weird. I'm just showing you guys like all the weird stuff. I guess this is a Doug DeMuro video, quirks and features. Got the manual mirror dimmer and all that. Also, I'm not like terribly tall. I'm like about 6 foot-ish, and I'm like touching the top of this with my head pretty much. So like headroom in here is not necessarily the greatest. I have the seat all the way down. But yeah, with all that being said, I think this is all about the driving experience. So that was the quick walk around. Let's take it out and see how it drives, I guess. So I obviously forgot to mention the pricing and stuff like that. So if you want the most up-to-date price, check out Southtown Imports website in the description down below to see that. But I do want to mention kind of like the general market value on these and why I think that these are actually undervalued. So these are going for like, you know, on the cheap end of things, you know, high 20s. And then a lot of them are in the $30,000 to $40,000 plus range, which is crazy to me because this has similar power and performance to the Toyota Supra, but because it doesn't have the Supra name, it's so much less expensive. And I think this is the next car that's just gonna like skyrocket in value and be a, you know, a 6-figure car in the near future, because the Supra is that much, but there's a lot of people that now can't afford, you know, a manual transmission Supra because it's well over 6 figures, whereas this, again, similar power outputs, manual transmission and all that. So yeah, but let's drive it. So let's talk about visibility here in the VR-4. So you guys can see visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors, and then throughout the rest of the rear. And let's set off. So we are setting off here in the VR-4. And I want to mention this car is actually challenging to drive, which I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It kind of makes it so that like you gotta like earn the right to actually drive this car, which I think is actually kind of a cool thing. First off, the clutch, you know, like most 90s cars, super heavy. But once you're up and moving, it's not bad at all. It just takes a second to get used to it. Definitely tons of turbo lag, which again is kind of like a hallmark of 90s cars. The thing I'm super surprised by is the ride quality. This thing is so smooth. This is like a luxury car from a ride quality perspective. That's crazy. That's so crazy. But yeah, you'll definitely get a leg workout with this car. So actually getting up and moving. This is such a cool car. The shifter is actually really nice. It's not super short with the throws, but it's very notchy in terms of getting into each of the gears. And so it actually feels pretty good from a shifter perspective. Coming through here, yeah, the steering is also kind of it's kind of got like a loose feel to it to an extent. And again, it's kind of like this drives, you know, just like what you'd expect with, I know I'm saying that over and over again, but I actually drove a Supra Turbo. If you guys just look it up on my channel, I drove a black one with a manual transmission, and this drives so similar. Like it just has that same feel to it. That's just definitely interesting. But it keeps flashing with the sport button. Yeah, this is definitely a car that you have to like I said, you have to earn the right to drive it. I don't know what other way to put it. It's just it's like the clutch is heavy, steering's a little bit, you know, a little bit weird, but again, that's kind of expected for a 90s car. The shifter, you just have to get used to everything on this car. But once you kind of get used to it, rev matches beautifully. It's like perfect. The throttle's so blippable. And it's actually a very fun car to, you know, just drive around. Super unique. One thing I want to mention is when I'm kind of turning, my thumb kind of like presses into the horn button. I haven't done the horn, but like it's almost like my thumb wants to kind of press it, which is kind of interesting. Just, you know, seats are super comfortable. and it's not super noisy. I mean, it's about as quick as what you'd think, you know, 300 horsepower. You can actually roll through the gears though, which is a huge positive, right? You know, a lot of modern cars have so much power that, you know, you punch it and you're instantly up to speed, whereas this, you can actually, and it's, you know, it's got that 90s turbo lag where you want to go all the way up to redline. So yeah, super unique car. Super unique car. Yeah, so I guess, you know, if you're looking for, again, just something that's, you know, different, and I guess the biggest thing is, if you've always wanted a Supra, but it's out of the budget, the 3000 GT could be the car that works, because it's so much more affordable. And I don't see a downside. Like, I feel like this feels like a Supra. It's not a Supra, but it feels like a Supra. So, like, in my mind, this is like a manual transmission Supra, but like, it's not over $100,000.